This is a 34-year-old Anthony Joshua. This is a terrifying human being. Terrifying. And he's got that one-punch nuclear power. One punch. And he's fast. He's going to be terrifying. And he's going to have a lot to prove. He's going to be very angry that Jake Paul wants to fight.
Joe Rogan just blasted Jake Paul after revealing shocking new details about the Anthony Joshua fight. And trust me, this was far more than a mild wake-up call. It was a full-on reality slap. He exposed the frightening truth behind what Jake is actually stepping into. And the harshness in Rogan's tone said everything.
Realistically, it's one of the craziest propositions of all.
Jake Paul stepping into a ring with Anthony Joshua isn't a bold career decision. In Joe Rogan's view, it's a high-risk gamble that borders on insanity. And Rogan doesn't sugarcoat any of it. He outright labels this matchup as one of the wildest propositions ever put together in modern boxing. Because to him, the shift Jake is making is massive as well as disastrous.
You take a guy who just had a boxing match that looks like a sparring match with a 58-year-old Mike Tyson, and then you're going to fight one of the absolute scariest knockout artists in the heavyweight division.
Rogan notes that Jake's last major bout was against Mike Tyson, a 58-year-old icon who wasn't moving anywhere near prime speed. But now, suddenly, Jake wants to leap from that to a prime, explosive 250-pound destroyer who spent years tearing through world champions. Rogan can't make sense of it, and honestly, neither can most of the boxing world. The gap in danger, the spike in risk, it's the kind of jump Rogan thinks no one with self-preservation instincts should take.
You're dealing with a guy who's an Olympic gold medalist, and he's enormous, and he's got vicious knockout power, and he's got immense amount of experience at world class.
The way Rogan describes Anthony Joshua is chilling. He calls Joshua terrifying. Not because of the highlight clips everyone's watched, but because Joshua's power comes with discipline, technique, and a level of athletic efficiency you simply don't see in celebrity boxing.
The timing in that right hand, just spectacular.
That's stepping in as well.
Over the top. I mean, that was a full force shot to the temple. I mean, he's Fucksville right now.
Rogan says Joshua hits like a truck but moves like a middleweight, and he means every word. He's seen Joshua crush world-class fighters, big, strong, elite opponents, with punches that shut the lights off instantly. So when Jake Paul signs up for that level of danger, Rogan sees it as a disaster waiting to happen. He keeps insisting that the mere concept of this matchup is ridiculous. Not brave, not brilliant, not strategic, just ridiculous. A decision you can't rationally justify without bringing up ego, delusion, or a paycheck with too many zeros. Then comes the part Rogan digs into: the physical mismatch. Not just height and weight, but functional size. Jake Paul usually walks around somewhere between 199 and 220 pounds depending on the camp. Anthony Joshua gets down to 245 only because the contract demands it. Rogan reminds everyone that Joshua normally sits far above that, sometimes reaching 260, even 270 in his heavier training phases.
And there's some sort of a rehydration clause. Listen, kids, it ain't gonna matter. You know, there's not a chance that Anthony Joshua is not going to just lose the weight beforehand. He's not gonna come in drained. What he's gonna do is just do extra cardio.
So even this reduced Joshua is still a mountain next to Jake. Rogan breaks down the 5-inch height gap and the 6-inch reach difference, like a red flag glued across the fight poster. Joshua doesn't just own reach, he uses every inch of it with ruthless precision. His jab is both a setup tool and a weapon. His right hand, according to Rogan, is basically a punishment device, something that can end a fight the very moment it connects.
Usyk beat him, and he beat him twice, and Andy Ruiz caught him in the first fight and dropped him and stopped him. It was spectacular. Andy Ruiz is super fucking talented. Usyk is perhaps the greatest heavyweight boxer.
And Rogan didn't end there. He also highlights their resumes. And this part stings. Jake Paul has fought Tommy Fury, who beat him. And yes, Jake has beaten former UFC champions, a YouTuber, and a basketball player. Strong names for entertainment, but nowhere close to the level of the men Joshua has faced. Joshua's resume is terrifying. Vladimir Klitschko, Joseph Parker, Alexander Povetkin, Andy Ruiz, Francis Ngannou, Alexander Usyk, actual monsters, multiple world champions, huge men with long amateur pedigrees and decades of elite ring IQ. Rogan brings this up to emphasize a harsh truth. Jake Paul is stepping into a reality he has never experienced. Joshua isn't retired. He isn't washed. He isn't slow. And he isn't a novelty opponent. He's a killer with 25 wins, 25 knockouts, and the kind of muscle memory that ends fights without effort.
This YouTuber who's fought Tommy Fury, who's a legit boxer, and a couple other guys that were legit boxers. That's it. Like everyone else he's fought Ben Askren, who was really a wrestler. He fought Tyron Woodley, who was an elite MMA fighter, but not an elite boxer.
That's why Rogan says this isn't even the same sport level. This is nightmare material. In Rogan's view, Jake isn't moving up in competition, he's accelerating straight into the deep end of elite heavyweight boxing with no breaks and no floaties. Rogan talks about the speed gap, the timing gap, the footwork gap, all the technical layers Jake has never had to deal with. Fury gave him problems. Woodley knocked him down. Anderson Silva outboxed him for long stretches. Rogan brings these up because if Jake struggled with those men, what happens when Anthony Joshua steps across from him wanting to make a statement?
And that's just going to make him more dangerous. He's going to be terrifying, and he's going to have a lot to prove. He's going to be very angry that Jake Paul wants.
Rogan believes Joshua will show up angry, motivated, and offended by the idea that a YouTuber could share a ring with him. And that emotional angle is something Rogan keeps emphasizing. Joshua's pride, Joshua's irritation, Joshua's urge to remind the world who he is. Rogan says that alone makes this matchup dangerous, because an angry Anthony Joshua is a completely different beast. He doesn't joke. He doesn't pity opponents. He eliminates them.
This is a 34-year-old Anthony Joshua. This is a terrifying human being.
When Rogan tears into this matchup, he isn't just being theatrical. He's laying down a truth fans might not want to accept. Jake Paul isn't simply fighting a bigger man, he's fighting someone who operates in an entirely different universe of combat. A universe built on Olympic gold, world championships, and a knockout list that reads like a demolition roster. And to Rogan, the most frightening part is simple: Jake has no idea what that kind of punch actually feels like.
Joshua, check out this combination he hits him with. I mean, dude, the speed that he hits him with this, he's so dangerous.
Joshua's highlight reel is the portion Rogan constantly returns to because that's where the true horror show starts. Rogan practically urges people to rewatch the Francis Ngannou knockout not for entertainment, but as a public safety warning. He calls it the perfect demonstration of Joshua's insane timing, speed, and that explosive, piston-like right hand. Rogan breaks the entire moment down as if narrating a crime scene: the way Joshua steps in, the angle he selects, the way Ngannou, a man built like a superhuman action figure, gets folded in half by one clean punch. And Ngannou isn't some random heavyweight either.
Jake Paul's 6'1" versus 6'6" Anthony Joshua. Jake weighed in for the Tyson fight at 199.
Yeah.
Joshua against Ngannou was 252.
6'6", not just 6'6", but 6'6", and knows how to use every fucking inch of it.
This guy put Tyson Fury on the canvas. The same Tyson Fury who's 6 feet 9 inches, 270 pounds, and basically shaped like a skyscraper wearing gloves. And yet Joshua stepped in and erased Ngannou in minutes like he was deleting a file off a desktop. Rogan keeps stressing this because people somehow continue to underestimate Joshua. They talk as if Jake is facing just another puncher, while Joshua is out here doing demolition work on fighters who themselves are knockout machines.
Again, a guy who survived Usyk twice. You saw what Usyk did to Dubois? You see Usyk take out Dubois? Did you see that? I mean, that's the Usyk you're talking about. There's an Usyk that rocked Tyson Fury, who's fucking 6'9".
So
in my opinion, the most skillful heavyweight of all time. Twice. And you're going to go boxing? And the toughest guy you fought before was 40 years old Anderson Silva? Those are the toughest guys so far?
And then there are the Usyk and Ruiz examples Rogan pulls out like proof. He points out that Joshua has faced arguably the most technically gifted heavyweight of this era, Alexander Usyk, twice. Those fights forced Joshua to adjust, adapt, and evolve. Rogan stresses that you never leave a fight with Usyk as the same boxer you were going in. The timing, the patience, the footwork, Joshua learned all of it at the highest possible level. And the Ruiz fights show Joshua's resilience. He loses, recalculates, humbles himself, and returns smarter. Rogan loves that arc because it proves something Jake has never had to do: get dropped, get embarrassed, get broken down, and still find a way to return to world championship form. Rogan uses these examples to paint a picture that's honestly brutal. Joshua has survived wars. Jake has only watched them on TV.
Knows how to keep that stick in your face. He was keep that jab in his face, and that right hand, if it hits you, you're...
Then comes the weight cut myth, and Rogan has zero tolerance for this one. Every time someone says, "But Joshua has to weigh 245. That helps Jake," Rogan practically bursts out laughing. He explains that all it does is turn Joshua into a lighter, faster, more efficient monster. Joshua at 245 is sharpened. Rogan says, this version of Joshua is lean, spring-loaded, and ready to explode. He's not draining down like a guy cutting to 147 or 160. He's just tightening up. That's all. And Rogan reminds fans that believing a rehydration clause will save Jake is pure fantasy. He jokes that if people think Joshua at 250 is scary, wait until they see him at 245, a version with more stamina, more speed, and no unnecessary bulk slowing him down. Rogan describes it as the nightmare setup. Jake ends up facing not just the typical Joshua, but a fresher, more conditioned, more dangerous version.
1988 Mike Tyson, full chaos. That's what I was hoping for.
We walked out like that.
Yeah, it looked like it. Yeah, but that's what everybody signed up for.
And this leads Rogan right into the psychological storm he thinks Jake is stepping into. Rogan believes Joshua is genuinely insulted that a YouTuber is entering the ring as if he's earned his spot. And when Joshua is insulted, Rogan says the switch flips. There's no politeness, no patience, and no softening for safety. Rogan brings up how Jake versus Tyson looked like a nostalgia act, with Tyson carrying him at times. Rogan laughs at that idea happening here. There's no holding back, he says.
Because Joshua is still competitive in the heavyweight division, and he's only doing this for money.
Joshua is still part of the heavyweight title picture. He's still chasing legacy. He still carries the pressure of proving he deserves a place among the sport's top-ranked fighters. He can't afford to look soft. He can't afford fans accusing him of taking it easy. And Rogan warns that the second Joshua feels even slightly disrespected by the public, by Jake, or by the media hype, he will respond in the most violent way a professional boxer can, by turning Jake Paul into an example.
And I don't think this is that. I don't think this is that at all. First of all, it can't be that, because Joshua is still competitive in the heavyweight division, and he's only doing this for money.
Rogan's main point is straightforward. If Joshua goes soft, the world calls the fight rigged. If he goes hard, he does what he always does, knocks people out. So which one do you think he'll choose? Rogan believes Joshua is entering this fight angry, insulted, and ready to shut down every bit of circus energy surrounding Jake Paul's boxing career. And to Rogan, that emotional mix is far scarier than any punch Joshua has ever thrown.
And versus Jake, that both of them were sort of pulling punches and not fully letting it go.
I think that's a different...
And let me tell you, Rogan can't get over how bizarre that Tyson fight looked. And honestly, he's not wrong. He practically calls it an elevated sparring session, two guys tapping each other like they were checking range instead of trying to ruin each other's night. Rogan points out the strange vibe of the whole event. Tyson throwing half-speed hooks. Jake backing up like he's being polite to an uncle at a family barbecue. Nobody wanted to look too bad. Nobody wanted to go full blast. And Rogan has a theory for why it all felt so gentle. Maybe Tyson eased up because he actually likes Jake. Maybe Jake didn't want to detonate a 58-year-old legend on live TV. Or maybe both were protecting the money. Either way, Rogan states it plainly, that was not a real heavyweight dogfight, and people need to stop pretending it was.
I think that's a different deal. You know.
Do you think there was something probably just below the table?
I do not know. I do not know if it was said. I do not know if it was understood. I do not know.
In your professional opinion, based on what you saw, do you think that the people were holding back?
It definitely looked like sparring.
And this is where Rogan gets fired up, because he knows people are comparing that Tyson fight to what's coming with Joshua. He shuts that idea down instantly. He says Joshua is not Jake's friend. He's not nostalgic. And he's not stepping into the ring to share wisdom with the kids. Joshua is entering as an active, fully functioning, championship-caliber heavyweight with zero obligation to keep anything polite. Rogan puts it sharply and mercilessly.
Anthony Joshua, you carried the torch for the boxing community. Because I know a lot of like straight-up boxers, and they absolutely felt that way.
Yeah.
Like this is what needed to happen. These guys can't come over from MMA and think they can box.
He says Joshua is a specialist at driving his knuckles through your skull. No sympathy, no restraint, and no smiling between rounds. Joshua is there to remind everyone that this is professional boxing, not a YouTube charity exhibition. Rogan wants Jake's fans to understand one thing with absolute clarity. Whatever you saw with Tyson, erase it completely. None of it applies here. Joshua is the real storm.
Caveat.
Yeah, here's the caveat. This might earn him $200 million. So if it earns him so much money...
Joshua or Jake Paul?
Joshua, like either one. How much money is involved?
$200 million?
Oh, dude, total prize purse for Jake Paul versus Anthony Joshua is $184 million.
Then Rogan jumps into the part everyone loves discussing, the money. And this one is outrageous even by boxing standards. He breaks down the reported $184 million purse like it's monopoly cash being tossed around by billionaires for amusement. A 50-50th split. $92 million each just to show up and risk their teeth. And then there's Jake's mysterious tweet about a $267 million bag. Rogan jokes that Jake casually drops a $250 million figure like he's ordering a pizza. That single tweet sent the internet into chaos, but it also highlights the real engine behind this fight, Saudi money. Rogan reminds viewers that the Saudis have a history of doing whatever it takes to make mega fights happen, even if it requires writing checks that look like national GDP numbers.
About Anthony Joshua, if he loses this, so let's say he's only getting the 92 million, which I bet he's getting more. Let's say he's getting 92 million. If he loses this fight, he misses out on that Saudi money. Because they could set up a Tyson Fury, Anthony Joshua fight, and each one of them gets $200 million.
But the key part of Rogan's money rant is the motive behind it. Joshua isn't fighting Jake just for this payday. This matchup connects directly to even larger paydays, potentially $200 million or more for future Tyson Fury or Joseph Parker fights. And that means something vital. Joshua cannot lose here. There's too much on the line, too much money, too many future opportunities. Rogan says it plainly, for Joshua, losing to Jake Paul would be financially devastating. He'd be throwing away generational wealth. And that's exactly why, according to Rogan, Joshua is going to fight with maximum aggression. There is no scenario where he takes this lightly. There is no world where he cruises, not with 9-figure payouts waiting ahead. And after tearing apart the financial side, Rogan moves straight into Jake's resume, which he practically dismantles piece by piece. He starts listing Jake's opponents as if he's reading from a comedy skit: a retired NBA player, a 40-plus Anderson Silva, 2 retired MMA fighters, Tyron Woodley twice, and a wrestler. Rogan respects Jake for stepping into the ring at all, but he's brutally honest about the level of competition. These weren't heavyweights. These weren't prime athletes. These were names, entertaining names, business-friendly names, but not opponents who prepare you for Anthony Joshua.
Lost to Tommy Fury, who's a very good boxer, but this is a giant Olympic gold medalist heavyweight. I mean, Anthony Joshua is fucking
Here's
terrifying.
the thing that nightmares him.
And then comes the Tommy Fury fight, the one Rogan calls Jake's only real boxing test. The only time Jake fought someone who actually grew up in a boxing family, and it was a messy, scrappy, controversial showing, with Jake struggling in areas that Joshua treats as warm-up drills. Rogan uses all of this to point out something major. Jake has never fought anyone who punches like Joshua. No one who moves like Joshua. No one with the pedigree, the violence, the experience, or the championship instincts. Rogan says Jake isn't just stepping up a level, he's skipping 10 levels and diving straight into the deep end with a guy who doesn't know how to swim slowly. So Rogan frames Jake's decision to accept this fight as a strange cocktail of ambition, self-belief, delusion, adrenaline, and a desperate hunger for legitimacy. He even gives Jake credit for having guts, because you'd have to be fearless or out of your mind to sign a contract with Anthony Joshua. But Rogan makes the final point absolutely clear, that blend of ambition and delusion usually ends in disaster, and in this case, he expects exactly that outcome.
He's got that one-punch nuclear power. One punch. And he's fast.
Rogan keeps returning to one line, and every time he repeats it, it hits harder. I don't want to be Jake Paul standing across from Anthony Joshua. And coming from Rogan, that's not trash talk, it's a survival warning. He says it with a mix of honesty and disbelief, like he still can't understand how Jake convinced himself this was a smart choice. Rogan talks about Joshua the way people describe natural disasters, not evil, not malicious, just something powerful enough that you should stay far away from it.
Anthony Joshua has that kind of speed. That is you kind of
with
think
252
like,
pounds.
if you don't
behind
have the skill to get away from that kind of power, what happens is Francis Ngannou and Anthony Joshua.
And then Rogan gets poetic in the most frightening way. He calls Joshua nightmares made real, the exact blend of size, speed, and skill that makes heavyweights terrifying. It's not just that Joshua punches hard. Plenty of fighters punch hard. Joshua hits with that clean technical accuracy that shuts the lights off instantly. Rogan even describes Joshua's right hand as temple-shattering power, the type of punch that doesn't just hurt you, but rearranges your plans for the next 6 months. He says that hand has nuclear potential, which is his dramatic way of saying that if it connects, someone is going unconscious.
Listen, it really depends on who's setting it up. Netflix doesn't have to tell you how much they're.
But the most interesting part is Rogan's final prediction. He says if Anthony Joshua doesn't attempt to knock Jake Paul out, the whole world will immediately yell fix. That's how massive the power gap is. That's how enormous the expectation is. According to Rogan, the only outcome that looks believable is Joshua trying to blast a hole straight through Jake, because anything less appears suspicious. It's a blunt, icy assessment that leaves no room for interpretation. Joshua has to be violent just to protect his own credibility. Then Rogan shifts into the final reality check, and this is where he stops joking and gets brutally serious. He says this fight is the dividing line between Jake being legitimate or delusional, no gray zone, no middle path. If Jake somehow survives, he earns more respect than he's ever known. And if he gets knocked out? Rogan says that might actually increase the respect people give him, because at least he stepped in with an Olympic gold medalist heavyweight who owns 25 knockouts. In Rogan's eyes, Jake's only route to respect is pain, a lot of it. But Rogan also makes something else clear. This is a defining night for Anthony Joshua too. Not because he needs Jake for legacy, but because the stakes connected to this fight are enormous. Joshua is standing on the edge of securing a future worth hundreds of millions. Fury rematches, Parker fights, global mega events, and a loss to Jake Paul detonates all of it. Rogan captures it perfectly. Joshua is at a crossroads between legacy and generational wealth. He can't falter. He can't relax. He has to destroy. And that's when Rogan drops the line that chills everyone listening: Jake Paul is walking into the most dangerous,